Was that? You smell that? It smells like middle school. Hee hee ha ha, hello at me, and today I'm actually doing something a little bit different. I'm playing The Sims, but not in the way that I've played The Sims in the past on this channel, which is like only been twice. But I'm doing a current household, and not only that, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history lesson on my current household. So I think I'm gonna start with this kind of shitty PowerPoint. I've done better PowerPoints in the past, but this was a short notice one, so without further ado, this is a Bad Bitch family. A bit of context is that there's actually an original save and the save that I currently play. My intention with the original save was to give a makeover to all the townies, and I started with Flatty Daddy, of course. And I only had the base game and vampire, so it wasn't like that bad to actually do. And at the same time, I was only using Alpha CC. I'm a Maxis Match girly, but this is like pre that. This is when I used a desktop computer. I was playing this on like 100-year-old Mac. So, well, it felt like it was 100 years old. It's probably like I don't know, actually, no, I'm not good at math. So after I had finished making over the entire town, I made my own sim, a vampire named Danielle, and I always call her Miss Danny. She was married to a reformed Vladdy Daddy because I no longer made him evil because I was kind of like, that's kind of like tired. He's like the Nosferatu evil vampire, and I was like, that's not the vibes. And one of the kids she had, his name was Yolanda, and she married a vampire from like another family that I had, called Yosef the Bad Bitch, and together they had a son named Yosefi the Bad Bitch, and that is where my favorite part of like the bloodline actually begins because Yosefi the Bad Bitch is my absolute favorite sim ever. The original Yosefi was kind of like a Tumblr sexy boy, and he was kind of me during that era, so it definitely makes sense. And also, he was like edgy in like that way, and this is like a drawing that I did because I do fan art of my Sims because I'm a little silly goose. So he had a rough childhood, and he was always closer to his grandparents than he was with his father because his father pressured him to be like a traditional vampire, and he was just not giving. Um, he wanted to be an astronomer. He wanted to go to space, see the stars, be vibing, and of course his father viewed that as disrespectful, so he was like, get the fuck out or I kill you. And he was like so like not a cool dad. Yosef, for some reason, like their personalities didn't mesh well. And I made him also, so it's kind of like I was surprised about it too, so I like played into it a little bit. The elder is Yosef's father, so his paternal grandfather, Yosef's paternal grandfather. I just called him the elder because I don't remember what his original name was, and he was like needlessly cruel. So he was sent with his paternal grandfather to learn how to be a traditional like Nosferatu rotting in the basement vampire. And one time, if he refused to train his vampiric abilities, the elder snapped and smacked him on the face in Emuland. I did it so that he clawed his face into the shape of a star. He carved it so that just to torture this teenage boy so that he could be constantly reminded of what he could never be: normal. He would never be able to see the stars, and so his grandfather had carved it into his face to spite him because he was a nasty, nasty man, let me tell you. After he received the scar, Vlad and Daniela took Yosefi, so these are his maternal grandparents now. They took him in and had some choice words for his parents. Like, Yosef was mortified by what had become of his son and had killed his father in anger. So he killed the elder, and Yosefi pursued his dreams of being an astronaut. And this is like his adult makeover. He's got like, it doesn't really show, but that's like a flower on his chest. He had eventually fallen in love with a human girl that I called Serenity, and she had albinism and also had like another autoimmune disease. I forget. I had a mod that like gave people diseases, and she randomly just like developed it. So she was always like kind of sickly, and even a laugh could just take her breath away. I think it was like a respiratory thing. And Yosefi had planned to turn her after their wedding with her consent, but at the time of their wedding, she was pregnant. He couldn't turn her right away. So I decided to like hold off on turning her until like Josefina was a little older. So after Josefina finally aged up into a teenager, Serenity actually died of laughter. Like, quite literally died of laughter. I didn't even know that that was a death in this game, and when I tell you I was, like, distraught, I was so upset, so that I looked up how do you resurrect a sim, and then I came up, saw, like, all this ambrosia. He was so crestfallen at the death of his wife that he just fell into depression. Because the plan was to turn her after she had turned into a teenager and became more self-sufficient. And Josefina was, like, so sick of, like, her dad being, like, a depressed dum-dum, so she, along with Vlad, tried to cheer him up constantly. They all lived together at that point, and Vlad suggested that he resurrect her with ambrosia, and it set off a chain reaction of bloody murders. I thought that ambrosia was going to be way too hard to make, so I made it so that Josephine and Josefina had to sacrifice Sims to Serenity's beloved cowplant, Mr. Boris, and this is, like, so iconic because I had the extreme violence mod at the time, but I just thought it was, like, annoying just to, like, blood sacrifice. I thought that was overdone, overplayed, overblown, but then I remember that you can die via cowplant. And so that was how. Befriend them until they were asked to move into the household. This is one of them. This is Etoile. She was one of the victims. But she wasn't that very nice person either. She was actually a Black Widow. And his first victim was actually Katrina Caliente, who was, like, totally trying to gold dig his generational wealth. And Etoile was, like, more of a washed up celebrity. Oh! So I was so kind of, like, not vibing with her, because the whole thing was that she was trying to romance Yosefi to get, like, his coin and then murder him, but she chose the wrong one. So there's this Snapchat thing when I used to use Snapchat. So with every ounce of humanity and sadness that, like, slipped away, Josefina had to just, like, slap some sense into her dad once again, be like, this is all just to get her mom back. So it's like, we're gonna do this, whether you like it or not. We've come too far. And then there was just, like, a happily ever after. Or so I thought. Until The Sims 4 Legacy Edition ended up becoming a thing. My computer wasn't able to access the gallery, and all my saves were wiped, and I was devastated. I couldn't do anything but mourn the loss of my favorite sim. I switched even to playing The Sims on my Lenovo Yoga laptop, but I couldn't run The Sims with all the mods that I had originally had, so, like, it wasn't as fun, and I missed Yosefi so much and his iconic family that I would oftentimes draw him. So this is my fan art that I did of him. This is when I was still learning how to use Procreate, so it's not the best, but that's my he actually was one of my first digital drawings that I did. So I had to start from square one. I decided, like, one day, just like, I'm just gonna recreate my old save. So now we're gonna talk about recreating the Bad Bitches. I know this is, like, just a wall of text, so I might just, like, put some pictures in. At this point, I had been accumulating more and more of the packs. I had most of the main ones up to, like, the Mermaids game, and for reference, this was in 2019 and I was 16 years old. I wasn't using any mods except for MCC, just MC Command Center. I started by giving the makeover to Vladdy Daddy and recreating Miss Danny, slowly building the family tree until I got to Yosefi, and only this time I wanted to add some more occults into the family tree, so I made it my own personal goal to do this like a generations. The root of the family tree always will be vampires, but, like, as the supernaturals, I would just incorporate supernaturals more and more into the generations as they went on. And so that was the plan that I had. I actually made one of the first, like, branch families mermaids. And actually, I made a TikTok making the air frog. So I'll play that right here.
Don't know what to name him. Ramit! I don't know what to name him.
Just a little sidebar about the mermaid branch of the family. Frogland actually started off as a human and married a mermaid, so he turned into a mermaid, which is why his last name is Willow Creek. He has parents also, but they passed away due to old age because they're human. His daughter, Nori, is the mother of Nalu, who is married to Josefina, but they also have a cousin named Halu. So I don't know why this is the only picture that I have of him. Of course, he's in a swimsuit, and that's his wife next to him, obviously. They have 2 kids, and they look more orky. That's what happens. The cousins all like to hang out together, and they are all interconnected. So I played with that family and rotated with these Bad Bitches until they reached the same amount of generations and progressed to the same point. Eventually, the Willow Creeks became the Sea Brights because incest is gross. Didn't like that. So I had to like create more and more Sims just to make like a coherent family tree that made sense. I remade Serenity and I called her Celine because I legit could not remember her name at the time of making her. And then it came back to me like weeks later. I'm like, well, at this point, that's her name, so we're keeping it. I put Yosefi into the scientist career because I had Get to work at this time. This time, Yosefi turned her into a vampire before she could die of hysteria again, and she actually was like not even close to dying. I didn't re-download the mod that made them sick, so I just was like not doing that again. I also didn't have extreme violence anymore. Unfortunately, one of the features of Get to Work is that you could get abducted by aliens when you progress into the science career. And Yosefi was actually abducted and impregnated while Celine was pregnant. So they were both pregnant at the same time. So I kind of made it be like a surrogate twins type thing. It was so ridiculous. And I was like, at first I was like, I need to terminate this kid. But then she was born and I aged her up to see what she would look like as a teen. I was like, actually, no, she's kind of cute. She could live. And that was that. So that's like the aliens are already incorporated into the bloodline. So now he has 3 daughters. Josefina, who's the one that helped originally have Celine resurrected, but in this AU, she didn't have to be resurrected, so they just grew up as like a normal family. And then Yanni, who is the alien, she was purple and super cute. I'll show you pictures here. Jocelyn was her quote-unquote twin sister. To them they're twins, but like we know the truth. They happen to like have been born like literally like a day between. So they were both like in labor at the same time at some point, and I was like, this is stressful. And obviously Josefina was going to be the heir. I married off the sisters to different families, and I made them Montano, your typical like Nosferatu, like horror, Bram Stoker's Dracula type vampire. And then the Gold Glares, which I thought like, which I try to make like Edward Cullen, like the sparkly vampires, super campy and glam. Josefina named a sea bright named Nalu, who was a merman. And together they had Orion and Naga, who were going to be our next generation. Orion was born a vampire and Naga was a mermaid. So it was like already like now we have aliens, vampires, and mermaids all in one family tree. And I was like, so far that was like all of the occults at the time. And then they added werewolves, and then that's when I started my next generation. I made it so that all of the cousins, because they all had kids, were all in the same house. So I'll like more on them later. But they were all living in the house that's like literally supposed to be a recreation of the Twilight House in Forgotten Hollow. And I thought that was everything. And I took a break because COVID happened, and then I was graduating from high school. I didn't go to my graduation or prom because I was in Puerto Rico helping my grandparents move to the States and deal with a few issues. I even made a video, but it's now unlisted, and only accessible to family friends. Also because COVID gave me super bad anxiety and depression, so I couldn't do anything. Anyway, fast forward until the Werewolves and High School Years packs were out, and I started to play Orion's story again. And it just like dawned on me as I am reading my script that Orion's story is a drag queen. So that was unintentional. That's kind of funny. I added a few werewolves to pair up with Orion and his cousin Cole, who was a Montano, so he's like Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Blair Goldlair, who was the Edward Cullen daughter. Rain, or I call him Augustine, and Savannah Augustine are twins, and they were werewolves. Blair ended up with August, and Orion ended up with Savannah, and they had kids. There was also a lunar werewolf named Shayana, and she's so adorable. She and like Cole were like so adorable. And I had a mod that made it so that other supernatural creatures can be fated mates. So it just so happened to have worked that way, that they were all fated mates with each other, and I was like, that's crazy. I just moved them into the house. I made them in cast and I moved them into the house. And Shiano I found on the gallery, so that was like super like unexpected, but a welcome surprise. When High School Years came out, it was super duper buggy and messed up all my mods. I've taken like multiple breaks of playing, and usually in my rotations of games, I play Elden Ring and then I play The Sims after, because Sims like is my most recent game, and that's like where it loops back to the original. So the order of that pipeline is The Sims, any farming simulator game, usually it's Stardew Valley or Dreamlight Valley. Those two are the ones that like are like in that rotation. Then I play Coral Island or like any puzzle game. I move on to Pokemon just on my own time, and then Elden Ring is like the last one in that pipeline before it restarts again. Usually when I hit the Elden Ring pipeline, I'm sure you see like I have more Elden Ring videos than I do Sims videos because I don't tend to record my Sims content. I think it's just like always all over the place and chaotic. So sometimes I skip over The Sims because of the bugs and I get upset, but today we're just gonna pop into the game. Here we are in my current generation's household. Unfortunately, my UI is a little broken, so please bear in mind when we're looking this up because I need to update my stuff. The Simology panel is so broken. So broken. Anyway, this is actually Sebastian, and he's actually wearing the Maxis Match versions of the original Yosefi's hair. He was originally born a werewolf, but I didn't like having all of the new generation being werewolves because werewolves are like kind of a dominant gene. I would have thunk it, huh? And this is his wife, Lennon. Lennon is a spellcaster, and these are their kids, Mist and Valentine. So they are the next generation that I'm currently in the process of playing with. But yeah, as I mentioned before, he's a vampire, but he was born a werewolf, so he still has some of those wolfy qualities. He was always a loner. So let me go to Manage Worlds, and we're just gonna go to Manage Worlds. I'm gonna have to update my UI mod. Every time there's an update, the Better UI teaches like it's not us, we're not the ones, but like I swear to God, like every time I do this, my UI is broken. And it's been a while. Last time I played this was in August. So it's been quite a few months since I played The Sims. There's a new pack out already. There's 2 packs out that were new. One of them was like horses, and the other one is like a rent thing. And I'm not interested in either of those, so I'm kind of like whatever. The only way that I would buy another expansion is they had fucking fairies in them. Like the horse mod doesn't even have unicorns. The horse mod, bleh. The horse expansion pack doesn't even have unicorns. Like you have to be so fucking for real right now. In any case, my game is probably hella broken right now, but you know. So my game crashed, and I don't think it's a very like helpful idea to just like force it to work. So, this is my plum tree. This app is what I use to mark my family trees, but unfortunately, it's not going to be running anymore after December 1st. So, let me just I need to download my tree. So this is my plum tree. It's actually going to be obsolete pretty soon because I have to edit some things. But here at the very top we have Letty Daddy and Miss Daniela. And then they have Victoria, and she married Yosef and had Yosefi. Yosefi's married to Celine Zadadvich and was inseminated. Whoa, I think that's the correct term is inseminated by Senior Polynesian Technician 3, who is an alien. So they went on to have 3 kids. Yanni Goldware, who was the alien child, Yasleen Montano, and Josefina's a bad bitch. Josefina ended up marrying Nalu, who was a mermaid, and they had 3 kids. Kelsey Seabright, Naga Seabright, and Orion Zabadbich. Orion Zabadbich ended up marrying Savannah Augustine, and they had 3 werewolf kids, Adrian, Caswell, and Sebastian. Sebastian cured his lycanthropy and was then turned by Yosefi into a vampire and trained. So you already met his kids. But if we go down here, this is Ominous. Ominous is Leviathan's son. This is like the Mer Orcs. And he is married to Kelsey. And they have a cute little kid together, but they're not in this tree. And I don't have the energy to look for pictures. Down here we have the Montano branch. So this is Zach Montano and Yossi Zabadovich. The Montanos are the ones that are, like I mentioned before, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And Cole ended up mated to Shayana, and they had this amazing sim named Rayleigh Anna, and she was so iconic. And I was like, I kind of wanted her to be the heir, but she wasn't a part of the main branch family, so it was like, that's not gonna be good. Then over here we have Yanni, who married the Edward Cullen Apollo Goldglare. They had Blair Goldglare and she ended up having a kid too, but I didn't really research that all that often, and we can't access the family trees because the UI cheats are broken. How very sad. So in any case, that's my very chaotic Sims tree. For now, if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on the Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and I'll see you later. Vibes! Get your picture, I'm coming with you, dear Maria, count me in. There's a story at the bottom of this bottle, and I'm the pen. Do 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 do. Maybe not. It does. It's giving though. It kind of is giving like early 2000s, 2010s emo music, but you know. I hate myself sometimes. Like you really don't understand. Like I both love and hate myself at the same time, and I'm convinced that nobody on this planet is able to both love and hate themselves as much as I do.